Hi everybody, welcome to Sprague Woodturning. My name's Jim. If you haven't been here before, this is predominantly a turning channel where each and every week I show people how to make things on the lathe. This week we're going to be working with some more junk Locust. Again, I believe this comes from Ward, so thanks again for that. But yeah, I mean it's a pretty rough shape. But anyway, I was thinking what we'll do with this is cut it in half, and we will try to make another kintsugi style hull form, maybe something like that. Anyway, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So anyway, let's get this cleaned up, and then we'll figure out what we're going to use for colors. And I think I've got some other things that I want to throw into this casting that might make it pretty interesting too. So anyway, let's do that. So the hull form was my original plan, but of course, if you've been around for a while, you know that that's all subject to change. So one thing that we have to do with this piece is to cut the ends off of it because it's covered in anchor seal, so you definitely don't want to cast that. So you know, now this is my second piece, I think, with this Locust. I'm really falling in love with this wood. I realize a lot of people look at it as junk wood, but I like shiny finishes, and it takes a finish well, so you know, I'm actually really like this wood. So if you've got a source for this in Eastern Canada where we can get some decent sized pieces of it, I would greatly appreciate a comment down below. Let me know where I can get my hands on more of it. Now this one piece here, I mean, I'll be holding on to this and we'll use it for something else. It's a beautiful wood and very, very hard. And the last thing that I'm going to do here before doing a casting is clean the surface of the wood with the brass coated brush that's in the lathe here. This will give the epoxy a good tooth to bond to, and of course we'll clean the surface of the wood in case we get any ghosting and we can see the wood below the epoxy. Okay, so unfortunately our pieces are just a little bit too short for this bucket, but you know, that's pretty much the size that I want to use. I debated on putting this and this together like this, but I like the fact that it's more rustic and rough looking. This straight piece here shouldn't be a concern because, well, I might even just grind this off a little bit, to be honest with you, but it's going to be in the base of whatever it is that we're making. And yeah, we're going to have a little bit of space on the end, but again, if this is going to be the base, it's going to be turned away anyway. I just wish it was longer so that we're not using so much epoxy. But that's what we're dealing with. Now, all I'm going to do is set this bucket on here, try and center it, and I'll mark down, and then we'll go over to the bandsaw and cut these off. Now, something like that. The other thing that I wanted to show you is this is a boring bar from Hunter Tools that Mike sent me to try out. I have an adapter that goes into the one-way system to accept larger boring bars. So this is larger than the current one. Let me see if I can find the one-way one. So here is the one-way one, and you can tell it's significantly smaller. But I do have an adapter that I think is going to work for this. And these are pretty much the same length. It's a little bit longer. And these are the ends that go into this. So, you know, you can see, like, you can have some pretty deep hollowing the length of this. And so you've got a straight one and two bent ones. These would be really good for really long, deep vases, I would think. That's probably the main thing that I would use these for. I don't know if I would use them so much for something like this, but hey, we might give them a try. As long as the opening is large enough, then it shouldn't be an issue. But I have to find the adapter that goes on here. But anyway, we'll again cross that bridge when we get there as well. But I thought I would show you those. I thought that they look pretty cool. It comes with also a little what is this, Torx T9 Torx to change out the cutters if you need to. So anyway, that's from Hunter Tool Systems. Anyway, let's go to the bandsaw, I'll cut these out. Spoiler alert, I do try these in this video. I couldn't let them sit for as long as we were going to be away on our little trip that we're on right now. So yeah, you'll see them later. All right, we're going to calculate volume of epoxy that we need right now. So I'm going to throw the pieces in the bucket, and I'm going to throw these globes in here. Here, there. Well, I mean, I'm just going to throw them in there for now so that we can calculate the level of epoxy that we need. And this is all from mostly, I would say, when I use the epoxy coat to seal the sealing coat before the Waterlux goes on. So I make different globes with whatever's left over epoxy. Whatever epoxy is left over. So anyway, throw those in there. And we'll top this up with rice. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of art cast. Okay, now I got to get this out of here. So we're just going to call that 2 liters. All right, so if you haven't seen this method before, so the way it works is whatever volume you have, you times it by 1.4. So 2 times 1.4 is 2.8. So the 0.4 is the space that's around the rice. That's the formula that we use. And thanks again to whoever suggested that in the comments. You're awesome, because it really does work and gives you almost the right perfect amount of epoxy every time you do it. All right, yeah, speaking of that, let's mix up some epoxy after I glue these pieces in. Anyway, I've got time to kill here, so while we're waiting for my glue gun to heat up, we're going to just, I don't know, strip some shine off these just to give them a little bit of a tooth. I don't know if it's 100% necessary, but I think that it probably is a good practice. I wonder if some floral steel wool will do it. Yeah, that might work. I'm going to cut off these little sharp areas that you see here too. All right, we'll just let that set up, and in the meantime, let's mix up some resin. All right, so I'm going to mix up, well, 48 ounces, which is like 1.4 liters-ish. 2 of these instead of, you know, doing 2 cups, because what we're going to do is throw this in the vacuum chamber quickly afterwards. So yeah, I'm going to move along with this fairly quickly, and that way it doesn't, hopefully doesn't thermal set before we can get it into the pressure pot. Since I'm going for that kintsugi look, we're going to be using Artcast this week. This great thing about this, we'll be able to move on with this the next day, and that's one of the things I really like about using Artcast over Deep Cast. It does have its limitations, but Artcast is great that way and good for color separation as well. I haven't used any aqua blue in a while, so that's what we're going to use as a glow pigment. So you got to mix this stuff pretty strong in order for it to really be effective. So for each one of these, I'm going to put at least 3, maybe more. Yeah, I'll give it 4. And the other thing that I want to do, I mean, that's not really going to give us a pop of color. So I'm just going to throw a little bit of flash wine red in there, just to give it a little reddish color, if you will. I think that will benefit us. Anyway, not very much. I'm just going to start with that amount there. And this is a quarter of a teaspoon. We'll see what that looks like anyway. I don't know, is that too peachy? I think it's okay. Yeah, so these bottles, I've had them in my enclosure, and as you can tell, they're mixing up a lot better than the last time I used this. Last time the bottles were just way too cold. All right, so here's the first one, 1.4 liters. Just seen some hot melt glue there. Probably should have put my globes in before that. Kind of getting ahead of myself. Now, yeah, in the turning process, there is no doubt that we are going to lose some of these. But for the most part, I'm hoping that the majority of them are going to stay here. But I guess you don't really know. I don't know, something like that. Anyway, I'll mix up another 1.4 and we'll be right back. Right, here's another 1.4. I mixed up the flash wine red a little bit stronger. Hopefully it's a little, you know, it won't be as peachy looking or pinky looking. And since we're going to throw this in the vacuum chamber, it's all going to get mixed up, so I'm not real concerned about mixing the colors together, because it will do that on its own once the vacuum is applied. And the race method proves itself again. That is right at the top level of that piece of wood. I mean, wow. Give it a try. Vacuum chamber coming up next. Turn off the shop lights here so we can see better. Some more satisfying vacuum chamber footage for you. Yeah, there's surprised how much air was coming out of this. I realized that, you know, when you use that paddle mixer with a thicker epoxy, it is definitely going to introduce a lot of air, so that's probably the majority of this for sure. But, you know, again, that rice method, you know, just get down and buy the cheapest rice you can find, or stuff that's expired in your home, and use it, and it absolutely works fantastic. I wouldn't use instant though. I would use like basmati or jasmine or something like that, because they taste better. That's why. All right, that's 27 inches of vacuum. Anyway, I'm just going to keep doing this for probably another 15 minutes or so, and then I'll get it in the pressure pot. I'm a little worried about it starting to set, but, you know, according to this, for what it's worth, it's sitting at 16.6 Celsius or 62 degrees Fahrenheit. Anyway, I will bring you back when we're ready to go into the pressure pot. Well, all right, that's been, I don't know, probably 20 minutes, I think, somewhere around there. So the last thing I'm going to do is burn those bubbles off, and then I'll throw this in the pressure pot. It's definitely more pinky than I want it, but oh well. I won't judge the color now. I'll judge the finished product. Anyway, I'm going to throw this into the pressure pot, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. And well, we'll see if we got some thermal cracks. If we don't, we may have to put some in there. Oh, that's actually pretty heavy. All right, well, it's the next day, and yeah, no thermal cracking. Do I have to like wrap heating blankets around the pressure pot to get it hot enough so it'll crack. Now there probably is thermal cracks down inside of this. Anyway, let's pop this out and we'll make a decision from there. I must say that I am liking the look of this now a lot better. It's more, I'll say, maroony than pinky, so that's good. Anyway, let's get this out and see if we can see any thermal cracking. This has a lot of glue in it, so I'm betting it's going to put up quite a fight coming out. Boys, I sure don't see any thermal cracking anywhere. Crazy stuff. You know, that epoxy, that art cast is only supposed to be good to 1 inch. Now you've got some pieces of wood in here that acted like a heat sink. Yeah, these little resin globes, they acted like a heat sink, but I mean, you can tell it got hot right here. So I don't know. I'm still very skeptical, but you know, we'll put it between centers, we'll whittle it off and have a look at it, and we'll go from there. Anyway, let's get some centers. This epoxy's so good, even when you want it to crack, it won't crack. It's just, you know, if you don't want the cracks, you're going to get them, and if you want the cracks, you're not going to get them. That's just Murphy's Law. I'd say that's pretty good. So we're going to start off here with the number 3 Hercules from Hunter Tool Systems, like we usually do. And again, there's a link in the description for this and all of my other sponsors. Head on there and check them out, please. And unlike a lot of the other pieces that we've done where we've been looking for this thermal cracking, there is none inside of this. So I'm completely shocked and confused over that. This is not old epoxy. This is new epoxy. I'm not complaining. Well, I kind of am. But, you know, it was too good to cut open and try and smash up and then recast it again. And it was also up against the timeline too. A lot of people ask me, well, how come you use this epoxy over that epoxy? If I've got the time and, you know, there's no pressure on, then of course I'm going to use deep cast for a casting like this. But, you know, my thought process was, you know, I've got to get this video done before we leave for the cruise that we're going on, that we're now back from when we're watching. And so I thought that I would do the kintsugi method. It would crack and then would recast it again, and then of course that means on the 3rd day you can turn it. So I was like, okay, I can get it done and make the plane on time. And so anyway, it just didn't work out. Well, I mean, it kind of worked out. It's weird how that is, eh? So anyway, no kintsugi method this week, but there's always next time. Next time I need to maybe mix 2 of those bottles, put 2 gallons of it in there, and I can pretty much guarantee you we're going to get some cracking. So the goal, like it usually is to strip off any excess epoxy. We will have some ghosting in this piece. I could have gotten rid of it, but it would have made the casting quite small, so that's why I didn't do that. But once we've got the majority of it stripped away, then we can figure out what it's going to be. Now, 100% my intention was to make a hollow form of this, but in the end, I decided to turn it into kind of an enclosed bowl, which I'm happy with that decision as well. Again, just remember that the epoxy is always in charge. You're there pulling the strings, but if it wants to do something on its own, it's going to do it. Look, I've never been on the back of a horse, and I actually never intend on getting on a horse. But I do know that, you know, you pull on the reins to guide it. But, you know, if that horse wants to do horse things, it's going to do horse things. And the epoxy seems to be the same way. So I've panned the camera out so that we can get a good look at these cuts that I'm doing. So far there's been, we've done a push cut, there's a pull cut. This is very, when you've got this cutter on a 45-degree angle, it is very, very forgiving. And the only time that this cutter can really do some damage, and I mean catch-wise, is when it's facing straight up in the air. But, most times it's good in that regard too. So definitely watch out for that when you've got it straight up and down. Well, yeah, what do you think? I will say that this Locust, it is hard. Yeah. So we still have some ghosting to take care of here. I really want to get rid of this, but that globe there, I'll take some denatured alcohol and show you. That globe there looks really like planet-like. Same thing here. Anyway, let me get some denatured alcohol and we'll have a look at these and we'll figure out how much of this we're going to whittle away, because I mean, the more we whittle away, the chances are we're going to lose our little planets here. Oh yeah, check that out. Yep, nice pop of color there. What about over here? Yep. Beautiful. Now this here, I know you've heard me say that baby pink is my least favorite color. This, I believe, is copper and baby pink is what this is. And, there's some people going to be wondering, well, why did I put globes on the inside? Well, that's, if we keep going with this, we might lose some of these outside globes like this one. But we'll be hitting other ones as we move deeper into the casting, because I really do not like this ghosting effect that's on here. It's got to go. This one here, yeah, I mean, this really should be cut down a good solid 1/4 of an inch. And then, that's probably about a 1/2 inch all the way through this. So I think that those will still remain, but, if we give this any profile, then yeah, there's a chance we may lose those globes. But that's they're kind of a waste product, so if they stay around, they stay around. If they don't, they don't. I'm still going to go for form. So obviously this is going to be our bottom, just because inside the bucket we're missing this section of wood basically. So I'll keep whittling this off. I'll establish a foot. I am going to turn a tenon on the inside. We'll get a glue block on the bottom of this and get it turned around, and then we'll figure out exactly for sure what we're going to do with this. But I'm really glad that this does not look like pink, because when it went into the pressure pot last night, I'm like, I don't know. It looks pretty pinky, but here it does certainly not. So that's good in my books. It's always a struggle between form and basically the materials that you're working with. It is for me anyway. Ideally, it would work out that the wood is going to be exposed the way you want it to, and the epoxy is going to be exposed the way you want it to, and you're going to get a form that you want. So it's, but usually one of them has to go to the wayside. Usually, not always, but well, maybe not even usually. Sometimes it's got to go to the wayside. But I always try to pick form over basically materials that we're working with. But that's not always the case. It's a case-by-case basis. It really, truly is. So anyway, once we get this tenon done, we'll be able to hold this with a chuck. And then, of course, put a glue block on the bottom, just like I usually do. And then we'll be able to reverse it, or not even reverse it. It's going to go straight into the chuck, and then we'll be able to clean off the bottom of this and get the glue block on. Hoping you guys are enjoying this content, and if you haven't subscribed, please do that. That way we can give away some more stuff. Since I'm shooting this video in the future, I don't even know what the subscriber count is right now. So I guess we'll know when I get back. I'll be watching it closely, and we will be answering comments, so throw your comments in there. It doesn't matter if you're on holidays or not. Comments will need to be answered, so please comment away. At least this week, we're not having a lot of resin shavings wrapping around everything, stopping every 2 seconds to clean them away. So that's a bonus. When you have a lot more wood in a casting, you tend to get less wrapping of shavings around the chuck or the drive center. So anyway, I'm just going to hit this with some 60 grit, and there is a birch waste block that's been dipped in hot melt glue in an electric frying pan. Yes, lots of volume. Yeah, we do waste some of it, but I would sooner have more than not enough. This is actually a fairly heavy casting, and believe it or not, I don't think I was able to go above 475 on this. It just was too out of balance. Again, if my lathe was bolted to the floor, and if you're new to the channel, I mean, this is just a temporary workshop while my other workshop is being made at the moment. And since we're talking about that, I'll give you a quick update on the power situation. As of right now, there still is no power. Today was supposed to be the last day that they said that they put the poles in at least, but I haven't seen it yet. I haven't been out of the house yet to see if there's any action. So I'm going to say no. It's probably not. Anyway, hopefully when we get back from this 2-week holiday that the power will be in, and hopefully my contractor has a bunch of stuff done as well. So as you can see, we've reversed it now. I did struggle at the top here with some design issues. Again, you know, I was just trying to make the most of the casting and not whittle it all away. And sometimes it's a kind of a struggle for me to, you know, again, balance form over function, and, you know, lose a bunch of it by whittling it away. I try to make the best use of the epoxy, but yeah, a lot of times it just doesn't seem to work out, or, you know, it doesn't float my boat. I get that. That's a cruise thing right there. Anyway, we'll eventually get this whittled down and have a look at it and a talk about it, and then we'll figure out exactly what we're going to do. Well, the outside of our piece has come along. I'm still very undecided on if I want to keep this or just cut it straight in, you know, kind of close the bowl in. Yeah, wow. That might be the coolest one I've ever made. I'm still very shocked that we haven't seen any thermal cracking yet. It's a mystery, people. It's a mystery. Oh man, I don't know. I don't know if I like this. I don't know if I like the foot. I want a smaller foot. I want an elevated piece this week, not a squat bowl. I think I might just lose a little bit more of this flare here and make this foot smaller as well. Maybe cut in a little bit more just to give us a little bit more height than what we're going to have there. Yeah, should be cool. I'd love to get rid of this ghosting here. She's in pretty deep though. You can't win them all, I guess. You can't win them all. I've talked about this in past videos where, you know, for me, when I'm working on these castings, one of the important areas, believe it or not, is the foot. I like to establish the foot, and then once I've got that done, then, you know, I typically will make a call on the other part of the casting. And I'm happy with the profile that I end up with here. And I mean, it's not like it's a fancy pattern or anything. It's looks more like a Calabash type form, those Hawaiian forms from that area, that part of the world anyway. I think that's where it comes from. And anyway, I don't know. It just it was giving me a tulip look, but because those globes were in there, it was really kind of throwing that look off. If those globes weren't in there, then I probably would have stuck with that kind of tulip shape at the top. But with those globes being in there, I don't know, it wasn't sitting right with me. So we're going to drill this out. I think I started maybe 1 1/16, and then I think maybe something like 1 7/8 or something like that, and then eventually step it up to my 3-inch drill bit. The 3-inch drill bit, Forstner bit is there. It is there. It is an aggressive bit. You do have to have a lathe with a fair bit of power, and it's fine. You know, once it gets into the wood, it's fine. But getting it in there, you know, it does bounce around a bit, and at times can be very scary. I don't think that I would actually do this without the steady rest in place. But anyway, we eventually get it, and we're able to move on to hollowing. All right, we're all set up and ready for hollowing. I realize this is a bowl, but I really want to try this new boring set from Hunter Tools. I managed to find the adapter, so I just screwed this adapter onto the boring bar from Hunter Tools, and of course it goes right into my hollowing rig. And of course we've got our laser all set up. Right now it's sitting at about that. That will probably close up. Yeah, I mean, these are the other ones that come with it, and I don't know if we're going to use those or not. That one might do the entire job, except for right down in the base. May have to switch to the straight one. Now, I'm supporting it here. I could back the tool rest up and support it back here, but you've got a lot of overhang. So I think that that's going to vibrate really badly. So that's why I've got it supported here, and I'm assuming that that's the way to go. But this will not allow me to go all the way into the bottom. So, and I've got the tool rest the banjo's right up against this. So at some point we probably will have to do that, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Anyway, I should mention that this is the one-way captive system from oneway.ca. All right, let's fire up the cannon and see what this is going to look like inside. So overall, I really like the way this thing performed. The great thing about these tools is because the shaft is round, you can rotate those tools and then lock them down in a position that makes them less aggressive. I never bothered with that because it seemed to be working perfectly fine. The only real complaint that I've got is that it does seem to have a bit of vibration. You might be able to hear it in the video. The next clip coming up is a real-time clip, and you can hear it there. But again, if I maybe had rotated that cutter downwards, then maybe I wouldn't have got that. So I definitely will be using this in the future for sure. So that's 2% volume, by the way. So you definitely, again, I wish that I had have rotated them to see if there would be a difference in that regard. And keep in mind that, you know, these tools are meant to be, well, they're meant to be for something like a vase that's all in grain. These are in grain tools for the most part, but they seem to work fantastic here for the epoxy. But anyway, it's something that we definitely will see a lot more of in the future. And it's always fun to try new things. And as you can see, what I've done here is I've turned the tool rest inwards towards the bowl. I realize it might be a little hard to see that because of this angle, but that's what I did. And then that way you can reach all the way into the bottom and you don't have to support it by the large bar on the outboard end. Because, you know, I can pretty much guarantee you that it would give you some pretty decent vibration. But hey, I guess you never know. maybe we'll try that next time to see just what the results are on that. But anyway, thanks again, Mike, for sending me this. And again, there's a link in the description to Mike to Hunter Tool Systems, and that's where this comes from. But just to talk a little bit more about this, you know, this tool is no different than any other tool. Speed is a factor, the rate of your cut. So if you slow your cut down, then you know, you'll get perfect shavings and no chip out. So, you know, I was saying to myself, I wonder if I can get a stool and sit on the stool and take a load off here. And yeah, this is one of the benefits of having a captive system like that. You can sit there and take it easy. It's funny, I used to have this old warrant officer when I was in the infantry, and one of his sayings was, why stand when you can sit, and why sit when you can lay down? Because, you know, as a soldier, you just never really know when your next break is going to come. So when you've got the time, you take it, because you may not have it for a very long time. So anyway, I looked at that stool and I'm like, yeah, too bad I couldn't lay down and do this, so that would be cool. So that's the Badger Cub Straight Tool. Again, one of the latest acquisitions that I got from Hunter Tools. And I'm really liking this tool as well. I know that you've seen it probably a fair bit in the last three videos I think that I've used it. And again, it's good for deep hollowing like this. You'll see me, I did try the lathe in reverse. You'll see me go to the other side of the lathe. Again, this is because I'm left-handed and it's just not comfortable for my back hand to be my right hand that's on the gouge. My power hand is, you know, I always want that at the top of the gouge, or a hockey stick. I'll use that. I'll use a hockey term since, you know, I'm Canadian. You can stand on the other side of the lathe and do this like you know, like most righties would, and it's actually not too bad. The only issue with using the Hercules that I'm using there is when you get to the belly of the bowl, when you start to go right there, it wants to skate across the bottom. So you've got to have real good control of it. And if you don't, you can certainly run into some issues. But of course, the way to compensate for that is you just turn the tool on its other side, and then go down and take out the bottom like I am right there. And that's the safest way to do it. Like that, yeah. I find it's fine to go to the very base, the very center, and then work your way out to the rim like that. But when you go from the rim and you're working your way down inwards, that once you get to that area right there, just where I stopped, you're in the danger zone, and you could end up getting a bad catch, and it wants to skate towards the very center. Anyway, we're getting there. It won't be long before we'll be sanding. But before we can do any sanding, we just got to trim up the outside, you know, where the wheels are running. Again, you know, I didn't see any need to put any tape on there because the wheels were straight onto the piece. But, you know, the tension is coming out of the wood, so things are moving just a little bit. This was done all in one day, by the way. And, well, the initial turning was anyway. You know, usually you have to go out and trim up the outside before you start sanding. That's been my experience anyway. So here we are using the 3.5-inch dipple disc from sandpaper.ca, and we're going to sand from 60 to 180. I just don't see the need to go any higher than that if you're going to do an epoxy coat. And typically, if you want to put another epoxy coat on over top of this one, then, you know, usually sand into 220. You don't need to go any higher than that either. All right, this is 3 ounces of the Pro Series. And of course, we're going to use a silicone barbecue brush to apply this. Don't use regular brushes to use this, unless you're going for that hairy bowl look, because it'll pull the hairs out of a normal brush. So stick with the silicone one. I really like this. I just wish we didn't have so much ghosting, but anyway, you can tell that where the ghosting is, you can see how dark it is compared to the rest of it. So it is a little more pinky, but you know, it's not too bad really. Probably should have used purple. More cool planets. I realize this is a different view than we usually have. Planets down inside. Cool. See you tomorrow when we're going to trim this and get the first coat of Waterlux on it. All right, that's what we look like. The next day, I'm going to move this outboard just to be easier to sand. It's actually very nice. Very, very few bubbles, hardly like any at all, which is really kind of surprising. I guess that maybe shows how dense this wood is. Yeah, I don't have to tool this either. I think I'm just going to sand it. So we'll start sanding at, I think we'll go at 120 and work our way all the way to 800 and get our first coat of Waterlux on. Yeah, I'm finding if you get that right amount of epoxy on there, and again, I don't leave these spinning on the lathe, they go right into the enclosure where the heat is after that. You typically don't really have to do any tooling the next day. But anyway, as we normally do, I set it to 800, and then of course we're going to buff with the Triple E buffing compound from the Beal buffing system, and then clean it with the denatured alcohol, and then get our first coat of finish on. And of course, I'm going to use that little goblet buff to do the very bottom because we can't get the pad in there. And there's the denatured alcohol. Very crucial step, don't forget it. Alright, so before we use the original, we're going to try this again. And we'll see what kind of a benefit it has on this. This wood being a super hard closed grain wood, typically those woods will take a really nice polish. So anyway, it's not going to hurt to use this. But anyway, let's put it on and we'll see what it looks like tomorrow. And for those who are not aware, the harder the wood, the better the shine. The softer the wood, the more coats it will take to build that shine. It can be done, but it's going to take a lot more coats. I like shiny things, and she's shining. Green on that is really nice too. Right there, that area, beautiful. As my stomach growls, I must be hungry. Cool little globes. I like it. And I'd say it's more peachy than pinky now. Yeah, that one globe right there. Love that. Anyway, it says to buff off any of the remaining finish here about 10 minutes from now. So I'll throw it back on the lathe and then I'll do that, throw it in the enclosure, and we'll see you tomorrow for the first coat of Waterlux gloss. Let me know what you think. Well, it's the next day. This is what we're looking at. Tilt this light up here a bit. Very smooth. I just wiped off and yeah, it's like really smooth actually. And so anyway, we're going to buff this with the Triple E buffing compound and clean it with the denatured alcohol and get our first coat of Waterlux Original Gloss on. So for this round, when I use the buffing pad, I actually push on it a lot harder. Now there's not much standing finish on this piece at all, so that's not really so much a concern with that. But that's what typically happens between coats. I buff aggressively a lot more than, you know, when I first put it on. And then I just went right ahead and put the original gloss on. Well, if it stays the way this looks, we're not going to need another coat. I must say it looks pretty nice. Except for that piece of lint. Got it. Yeah. I should get a black light because they say that Locust actually glows. Yeah, beautiful. Let me get my black light here. Yep, there you go. A lot of people were wondering about that. There's your answer. It iridesces under a black light. All right, I'm not going to show the next coat. If there is another one, I'll do it exactly the same as I did this one. But it's looking pretty good now. Other than that, we'll see you when we're doing the bottom. So onto the vacuum chuck it goes after only one coat of the Waterlux gloss. I mean, that's amazing. So I'm just going to use the 5/8 bowl gouge to cut this down. I didn't think there was as much epoxy on the bottom of this as there was. I started using the gouge, and then not long before I switched to the Hercules after getting a bit of a catch there. But anyway, I would like to absolutely thank you all for watching the video, especially the ones that have watched all the way through. You guys are awesome. I really do appreciate it. And of course, special shout out to the members. Thank you so much for your support. And if you want to be a member of my channel, it is $2.99 a month to do so. All right, I'm just going to sand this to 500 on the bottom. Let's have a last chat about this beautiful little closed-in bowl. Well, it'll be interesting to see what your thoughts are on this. Planets. I'm not going to call this a space series piece, but yeah, I guess you could probably do that. That planet right there, I think, is one of the coolest for sure. Locust, already seen that it glows with a light. There's the bottom. Yeah, as you can see, there's no finish. Yeah, as per normal, there's no finish. Anyway, this is a beautiful piece. I like this form, Calabash type form, and I mean, and this would make a great giveaway too. So possibly we could do this for the giveaway. But I'm shooting this video prior to getting on the plane or the boat. And today's, so I would like to charge this up and show it lit up. The problem is right now we've got a major snowstorm happening. And along with that, I don't have a dark room here. So I don't know. I may try and take it home and charge it up and shoot some pictures in the closet maybe. I don't know. But anyway, I'll try and get those up at the end of this video, but no guarantees. It's just going to depend on if I can get it charged up and what it's going to look like. But I definitely want to see what it glows like, because this should be glow in the dark and this one should be glow in the dark as well, along with, of course, the rest of it. But anyway, let me know what you think about this, and I'll hold on to this for now. And if it isn't a giveaway, we'll put it up for sale. But, you know, this is too far in the future for me to know that at this time. Did I mention the size? 5 inches across at its widest dimension. Sorry, 7 inches wide at its widest dimension. 5 inches tall, and it's my typical 1/2 inch thickness. Leave a comment down below to be entered into the next epoxy draw when we get there. And of course, that's only for continental USA and Canada. And of course, right now, well, not right now, the usual deal with Designer Epoxy, of course, is 10% off your order, free shipping within continental USA. And Gabriel always throws in color bags. Right now, I think he's 6 color bags, but when you get your box, you never know. There's usually some sort of a surprise in it. So that's cool from Designer Epoxy. So thanks again to them for sponsoring the epoxy draw. As far as what we're doing next week, haven't got a clue. I'll be just getting back from my cruise, hopefully safe and sound, and I'll have to figure out exactly what it's going to be that week. All right, well, that's it. I'm out of here. Take care, stay safe, don't forget the bell. Please share my videos with your friends. That is the largest way for me to build my presence here on YouTube. I would greatly appreciate it. Have yourselves a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you next week. Take care.